The first call came in just after midnight. A neighbor reported hearing a child crying behind the row of townhouses on Alder Street. The caller said it sounded close, like the child was trapped somewhere, but when he went outside, there was no one there. Police logged it as a possible prank or a confused resident. By the third call, no one was laughing. Every caller described the same thing. A child's voice. A girl, crying softly at first, then louder, as if she was calling for help. Each time, the sound seemed to move. One moment, it was near the dumpsters. Another moment, it came from the alley. Then from behind the garages. No one ever saw a child. Officer Mark Reynolds arrived on Alder Street at 1:43 a.m. He rolled down his window as soon as he parked. The crying was unmistakable. It wasn't echoing. It wasn't distant. It sounded like it was coming from 10 feet away. "Hello," Mark called out, stepping from the cruiser. "Sweetheart, can you hear me?" The crying stopped. The street went silent. Mark searched the alley, the yards, the small playground behind the houses. Nothing. No footprints. No open doors. No signs of anyone being outside. When he returned to his car, the crying started again. This time, it came from directly behind him. Mark spun around. Still nothing. The sound faded slowly, like someone walking away without footsteps. The calls continued for weeks. Always after midnight. Always the same voice. Always no child. Residents stopped sleeping. Parents kept their kids indoors. People started recording the sound on their phones. The recordings caught the crying clearly, but nothing else. No background noise. No movement. Just a lonely child's voice in the dark. Then the complaints changed. The crying wasn't just outside anymore. People started hearing it inside their homes. A woman on Alder Street woke to the sound of a child sobbing in her laundry room. When she turned on the light, the room was empty. The crying continued for a few seconds, then stopped. A man reported hearing the voice from inside his walls. Another heard it through his baby monitor. Officer Reynolds was assigned to the area permanently. It was a little after 2 in the morning when Officer Mark Reynolds first heard it. A faint, lonely sound carried on the night air. He was parked in his cruiser, the town of Alder Creek silent around him. The sound was a child crying, and it was coming from the community playground. Mark grabbed his flashlight and stepped out, walking slowly toward the swings. The crying grew louder, more desperate. "Hey," he called out softly, trying not to sound threatening. "You're not in trouble. I just want to help." As he reached the swings, the sound stopped abruptly. The sudden silence was almost more unnerving than the crying. His radio crackled to life. "Mark," dispatch said, "you seeing anything?" "No," he replied, his voice low. "But I hear her." "Who?" "The kid." The line filled with static. "Say again," dispatch requested. "I hear a child crying," Mark repeated, his gaze scanning the empty playground. "She's right here." There was a long pause. "Mark," dispatch said carefully, "there are no active calls right now. We have no reports of a missing child." Just then, the crying started again, this time from behind the big yellow slide. Mark's heart pounded as he rushed over, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. There was nothing there, but on the ground, half buried in the wood chips, was a small, pink shoe. It was dirty and looked very old. He picked it up, and instantly, the crying stopped. Back at the station, the shoe was logged as evidence. They scoured missing child databases, checked local and state records. Nothing. The shoe didn't belong to any known child. The mystery deepened. The next night, the crying returned, but it was different. Louder, closer, almost angry. It wasn't just Mark hearing it anymore. Calls started flooding the dispatch line from residents all over town. They said the voice was calling names, whispering, sometimes sounding lost and confused. The entire town was on edge, haunted by a sound with no source. Officer Reynolds started sleeping in his car during his shifts, too afraid to close his eyes, fearing the sound would follow him into his dreams. One night, just before 3 a.m., the voice came again, but this time it wasn't crying. It was speaking, clear as day. "Why won't you look at me?" Mark froze. The voice was coming from the back seat of his own cruiser. He turned his head slowly, his blood running cold. The seat was empty. The radio switched on by itself, blasting static that filled the small space. Then the voice spoke again, softer this time, filled with a chilling sadness. "You hear me. Everyone hears me. But nobody sees me." Shaking, Mark stumbled out of the car. Across the street, porch lights flickered on, one by one. Doors creaked open. People stepped onto their lawns, their faces pale in the moonlight, all drawn by the same sound. The crying returned, louder than ever before, a collective wail that echoed through the streets. Dozens of residents stood there, listening, their eyes searching the darkness. No one saw a child, but everyone heard her, and for the first time, the sound wasn't moving. It was fixed, coming from one spot, right in the middle of Alder Street. Officer Reynolds did not sleep that night. He drove slowly down Alder Street, flashlight sweeping the yards, playgrounds, and empty driveways. Every step, every turn, every shadow made him tense. The cries would start again at any moment. At exactly 12:03 a.m., the air shifted. A faint sobbing, almost melodic, drifted from the distance. Mark's pulse quickened. He followed the sound toward a vacant lot, where the grass had grown high and wild. The crying stopped. The lot appeared empty, but Mark noticed movement, something reflected in the faint light. A small figure standing near the chain-link fence, just beyond the reach of his flashlight. "Hey, it's okay," Mark said, voice low but firm. "Come here. You're safe." The figure didn't move. No response. Mark stepped closer. The ground felt unnaturally cold beneath his boots. He raised his flashlight fully and swept it across the lot. Nothing. Yet the crying began again, behind him this time. Mark spun around, beam cutting through the darkness, but no one was there. His stomach knotted. The air was thick, almost heavy, like walking underwater. He heard it again, a whisper this time. "Why won't anyone see me?" Mark froze. That voice was not normal. It was close, yet impossible to place. He took a deep breath. "All right," he muttered. "I'm going to get to the bottom of this." The following days were a blur of investigation. Mark visited social services, checked missing child reports, even consulted old newspapers. There was one pattern he could not ignore. Every year, for the past 7 decades, a child had gone missing in this exact neighborhood. Every single case reported faint cries at night before the disappearance. None of the children were ever found. The streets had changed names and houses, but the pattern remained. Mark returned to the lot at night. He brought infrared cameras, audio recorders, and motion detectors. By now, residents had grown used to him patrolling. Most watched quietly from windows, some too afraid to come outside. At 12:59 a.m., the first sobs began, soft and tentative. By 1:03 a.m., the cries were wailing, echoing off the brick walls, filling every alley. Mark's cameras picked up something unusual, a faint shimmer, almost like a heat wave, but colder. It moved across the lot like a child running in place. He raised his voice. "Come on, you can trust me. Step into the light." The crying intensified. Then suddenly, silence. Mark's heart pounded. He scanned the lot. There, near a mound of dirt and weeds, lay a small, tattered toy. A music box. Rusted, broken, but when he opened it, a soft tune began to play on its own. Then the air shifted again. The whisper, "I've been waiting." Mark stumbled back. The hair on his arms rose. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the lot. It hovered, not quite solid, not quite gone. And then he saw her, the child, or something that resembled her. Her hair dark, wet-looking, as though she had just come from a storm. Her eyes empty, yet somehow alive. Mark froze. Who are you?" "I'm the one they never saw," she said. Her voice carried a weight that made him shiver. "I'm the one they forgot." Mark's training fought panic. Where are your parents?" "They left," she whispered. "A long time ago. No one listens anymore." The sound of a distant bell echoed. One of the nearby clock towers chimed. And then the figure began to fade. "No," Mark shouted, but it was gone. Only the music box remained, still playing its haunting tune. For weeks after, the crying persisted, but differently. It wasn't random anymore. It followed him, as if aware he had seen her. At times, he swore she was near him, reflected in windows, or behind him when he walked the streets. Eventually, Mark realized something terrifying. The child was not bound by space or time. She existed in the memory of Alder Street itself, a remnant of all the forgotten children who had vanished. No one could see her except those who tried to help. And even then, the closer they got, the more she reminded them of what had been lost. One night, months later, Mark returned to the lot alone. The street was silent, the houses dark, the grass swayed in the cold wind. He heard a soft laugh. Familiar, haunting. Mark dropped to his knees and whispered, "I see you." The wind picked up, and for the first time, The crying stopped. But the sense of being watched never left him. No one ever found the missing children. No one ever saw her again. But everyone heard her. Always.